All Henk by Andrew Harrison of Rydalmere 2116. Narrated by David Tredinnick. For the young, there is so much to look forward to on the blank canvas of life that stretches into the future, the pages of an unread story. To be fair, there are equal amounts of hope and trepidation, excitement and anxiousness, like the nervous anticipation of visiting an exotic foreign country for the first time. The youthful mind looks forward in time, and, as if to drag out the anticipation, time moves impossibly slowly. There are birthday parties and Christmases to wait for, school holidays and excursions and field trips and high school, that first crush, the Royal Easter Show with chattering friends, passing a driving test and finding a date for the school formal. And somewhere in the future, the as yet only vague possibilities of moving out of home, deciding on a career, getting married, buying a house, having children. So much to think about. At the other end of a lifetime, as time moves impossibly quickly, the mature mind turns to looking backwards, remembering, reminiscing, reflecting, perhaps regretting. Oh, those memories might be a bit faded and dusty, but still there if you care to find them. Old Henk has his 100th birthday tomorrow. There will be a cake and a visit from his daughter, who seems almost as old as him these days. A party hat, perhaps a telegram from the king or whatever they had these days, and the reporter from the TV station. "What's your secret to reaching 100, Henk?" As if he could know how he had reached this point, whilst those friends and family he had grown older with did not. He gazes thoughtfully at the crystal tumbler of whiskey and ice in his almost 100-year-old hand. Should he give them what they want? A whiskey every evening and listening to Vivaldi? Quitting smoking, eating his greens? Or give them the honest-to-God truth? There was a time when old Henk was Henk Schreiber, a newly arrived immigrant in this young and fresh country. Young and fresh at least in white Anglo terms. Aged only 27, he brought with him a little money, a little baggage, and a massive burden of guilt. Henk kept telling himself this was a new start to a new life in a new country where no one knew him or his story. He could rewrite the narrative, be whatever he wanted to be. The opportunities were boundless in this wide, sun-drenched land. But there was no escaping the knowledge he had killed a man, taken a life in the heat of the moment, committed a crime for which he had not been punished, except by reliving the fight in every waking moment, and even in his dreams. There was more than enough time for introspection on the cargo ship from Cape Town to Perth. In the middle of the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, the endlessly rolling swell stretched to the horizon and beyond in all directions. His sense of loneliness was intensified by the absence of land, not even the smallest island. When the weather permitted, Henk leant on the iron railing, feeling the rumble of the ship's engines through the deck plates, shifting his balance as the vessel pitched and yawed, savouring each drag on his limited supply of cigarettes. And with each resolution he made, each possibility he explored for his new future, the nagging feeling returned that he was simply running away. One night in South Africa, in Cape Town, in a dimly lit bar, in a quiet corner, Henk sat alone, drinking a beer. It was a good beer, he was thinking, watching the bubbles working hard, rising through the gold to the creamy head. A shadow fell over the table, making his secluded corner even darker. The man was quietly demanding Henk hand over his wallet, the wallet containing 2 weeks' pay in hard-earned rand. He could see a short knife held discreetly by the man's side, but clearly positioned for Henk to understand its insistence. What happened next took place in a heartbeat. The fight-or-flight response is hardwired in the human body, an acute stress reaction of the sympathetic nervous system that prepares the body to protect itself. A near instantaneous sequence of hormonal changes and physiological responses as the brain commands adrenaline release into the bloodstream. The heart pounds, Breathing quickens, muscles tense, beads of sweat appear. A glass shatters on the edge of the table, beer flying, the table overturning, broken shards in a ragged neck wound, and dark blood pumping onto the linoleum. And just like that, it was over. At least for the would-be payday thief. But for Henk, the seed of guilt was planted, and the running began. To his surprise, old Henk awakes again on the dawning of his 100th birthday. It takes some time these days for morning ablutions, but what's the rush? Flexercise class has been cancelled, so the residents can gather in the common room. There's a cake on the table, a large 100 candle on top unlit, because the smoke detectors have been playing up this week. His daughter, who seems almost as old as him these days, stands behind his chair with a fixed smile, overseeing. A party hat is perched on his head, the elastic catching the whiskers he'd missed under his chin. There's an envelope on the table, perhaps a telegram from the king or whatever they had these days. And the reporter from the TV station. "What's your secret to reaching 100, Henk?" He gazes thoughtfully at the crystal tumbler of whiskey and ice in his 100-year-old hand. Henk looks down the barrel of the camera lens. "A whiskey every evening, listening to Vivaldi, quitting smoking, and eating my greens," he says with conviction. The end.